It's the first Saturday of the month, so join me as I feed my plants and water them. What I usually do is stick my finger in the soil, and if it comes out clean, then I know that the plants are really dry and they need a good watering. For the food, I use a basic all-purpose plant food that you can get at any hardware store or plant store. Follow the directions for how much plant food to put in your watering can and fill it up with water. And then what I usually do to make sure that the plant food has dissolved is I use a little chopstick and stir it up there for a minute or two. All right, now that I have my plant food ready, I gather my plants and I start watering it. So what I do is sometimes give it a little bit of a squeeze so the water can really get in all the crevices of the soil. And I also stick that chopstick I use to stir the plant food and do a little aerating depending on if I think the soil is a little compacted or not. And then I just go about watering all my plants. Depending on how much water each plant needs will determine how often I water my plants. Some plants can really get dry and other plants need to get watered quite a bit. The plant that I'm holding here is called a string of turtle, which really likes to get dry, so I don't overwater it. This plant here is called Creeping Jenny. This plant here requires a lot of watering, so I water it probably twice a week. When I do my monthly feeding of the plants, I always check to see if there are any bug infestations or anything like that. This plant here I had sitting too close to southern exposure, and so the tips got burned. So now I have to make sure to move it further away from the sun so it does not get burned. This plant here is called snake plant, and it literally cannot die. The way I know it needs to be watered is when I can lift the plant right out of the pot, and that's when I give it some water. Here I'm feeding it, giving it some water, and I probably won't touch it again until next month. This plant here is called Swiss cheese plant or Monstera delicioso, and it was really big and I actually broke off some branches. So what I did was I stuck it in a vase of water, and within a week or two, all those roots that you saw just then started growing. So I'm going to just replace the water and put it back in the vase. I might end up planting it back in soil, or I might just leave it in water because it's doing really well. This plant here is probably one of my favorite. It's called String of Pearls, and it's actually a succulent. And I have it in an east-facing window, and it just does wonderfully. This plant here can get super dry, so I'll feed it and water it today, give it a good water, and then I probably won't touch it again until next month. Most of my containers and plant dishes I get at thrift stores and yard sales. This is a trash basket that I picked up at Target in their dollar section. This is a cake stand that I got at a thrift store, and the other white thing was actually a wooden bowl that I got at a yard sale. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to get some really cool plant containers. Hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little something about plant care. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you like to learn more about home life, home living, real estate, and life behind the scenes as a real estate agent, hit that subscribe button and that little bell. See you next week.